Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. This is your host, Linda Joy, publisher of Aspire magazine and the 6-time best-selling publisher behind the boutique publishing company InspiredLivingPublishing.com, which is dedicated to giving visionary female entrepreneurs, coaches, and health practitioners a voice and a high-profile media and publishing platform to share their wisdom, enhance their expert status, and bring their brand out of the shadows as a published author. I got to say, all my brands are dedicated to one thing, including the show, and that's to inspiring women to live their best lives. So welcome. So today we're talking about the power of self-love to transform ourselves, our relationships in the world. And that has been one of my greatest struggles, as it has been for so many women in my community. So I'm so excited that we're talking about this today. When we turn inward to heal our feelings of lovelessness and self-worth that keep us from loving ourselves, we create this ripple of love that positively impacts our relationships and our communities. And one of my favorite quotes that you see me sharing all the time on Facebook and in social media is by today's guest, one of my dearest friends, Dr. Debra Reble. A quote that I believe really captures the essence of today's conversation and the work that Debra's doing in the world. And the quote is, "We dream of love, we yearn for love, and we make love. But really, do we realize that we are love?" And that quote, when I first saw it, just really spoke to me because it's something that I had to learn to embrace in my own life. So allow me to introduce Debra, consciously merging her practical tools as a psychologist with her intuitive and spiritual gifts. Dr. Debra Reble empowers women to connect with their hearts and live authentically through her transformational soul-hearted living program. I have to say, I'm honored to be the publisher of Debra's recently released book, Being Love: How Loving Yourself Creates Ripples of Transformation in Your Relationships and the World. She's also the author of Soul-Hearted Partnership, the ultimate experience of love, passion, and intimacy, which garnered 4 book awards, including the Eric Hoffer Award. A frequent guest contributor to Aspire magazine and other high-profile blogs. Her words of wisdom are embraced by readers around the world. And to be sure to listen into her popular inspirational podcast, Soul-Hearted Living, which is on iTunes and other platforms and is dedicated to reconnecting women with their hearts. Hello, Debra. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Hello, Linda. I'm so excited to be here and so absolutely grateful. I was listening to your words and I just started to fill with tears because I'm just overflowing with love and gratitude to be a part of this particular show, and I want to congratulate you on this new launch and to be the first solo author for your new publishing company. I am just over the moon excited, and I just want to thank you. And, I just love our conversations and how we can take these conversations into the world to serve others. So I'm ready with love and gratitude to start this conversation.
Oh, I am too. And I got to say, everyone, Inspired Living Publishing has been working with Debra. She's published her Sacred Soul Stories in 5 of our books. And I didn't expect or plan on launching a new division until her manuscript for Being Love landed in my hands. And it was an intuitive and immediate download of, "You're publishing this book." And I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm not. No, I don't do that kind of publishing." And as always, the divine and the sacred had other plans. And here we are releasing it to women and individuals, I should say, around the world. So you're more than welcome. I'm the one that's honored, Debra, and let's dive into this conversation because it is such an important one. And how did your journey to learning to love yourself provide the principles that you live by today, but you also successfully guide your clients through to help them heal the feelings of lovelessness in their life?
Well, just to give you an example of how I walk my talk and how my self-love practices have become part of my everyday life. This morning I woke up and I always go through my morning rituals with gratitude before I even put my feet on the ground to open my heart. I lit my candle. I went into a quiet space. And there was this nagging sense of agitation. And then later, as I started to move through my morning with breakfast and letting the dog out, I'm like, why am I so irritated with the little things that are happening right now? You know, my dog always is feisty and chewy, and so why is this particular moment bothering me so much? And what I know to do is when I start to feel myself moving out of that alignment of that energy that I know myself to be, love, light, trust, it's time for me to check in, to go within, as you so beautifully spoke earlier. And so I took a moment before my first client arrived this morning, and I sat in stillness. And I've found that in my own experience, that sitting in stillness, sitting with myself, naked and bare to who I am, to whatever's going on, and letting myself feel whatever vulnerability, whatever emotion, whatever is going on within me, and let that surface. That's when I have the most power to bring myself back into that beautiful radiance of love. Now, I sat there for a moment and said, what is going on, Deb? You've been on the radio before. You've been on the radio with Linda. Well, maybe not radio, but you've been in interviews with Linda. What is happening? And I got to the feeling of anxiety, fear, because I don't want to disappoint anyone. Well, that's an old pattern that came up, people pleasing. I didn't want to, also go into any kind of not being able to speak my truth. I was afraid that I was going to not say the right things. So all that stuff started to come to the surface. And what I know is to let myself feel it, to let it release, sit there until it comes bubbling up and starts to dissolve. Now, this is a very capsulized version of what I did when I first started my journey. But I know that eventually the feeling will pass, and all of a sudden I start to feel the shift. My heart opens. I feel the energy change. There's a physical sensation. My mind starts to clear, and I feel myself start to come into that higher vibration of love, self-love. Now that vibration, if I had left it unchecked, would have started blocking my interactions with others, myself. Everything about my day would have started from that point. So my love practice is always about release and repeat to go into self-love. Now this journey started not that easily. What I just gave you in this quick synopsis was what I do in my practice today. But when I was in my late 20s and I was feeling at the bottom of my life, I was at that dark night of the soul where I felt like I was worthless. I felt lovelessness, and I felt like I'm not even sure I can go on in my life. It was this principle of sitting with that vulnerability, sitting with those excruciating feelings that led me to start to see that when I can sit with that, and I can be with that, naked and confronting the worst possible thoughts and feelings about myself, that's when I began to tap into what's always been within me, essence of love, the energy of love. It's in all of us. It's there. Now, we may have masks on, we may have armor around our hearts, we may feel like we can't let go into that space of vulnerability. But that is the key. Number one principle is to sit with our own selves and to feel it all, and then to accept it all, and then to release it all. So when I began that journey, so long ago, it started me walking the path of teaching what I practice. Yes, I'm a psychologist. Yes, I have those credentials. I have been a healer. I have been an energy worker. I have those credentials. But what's most important in my own life is I have experienced this path, and I've been given it so I can teach others. And so my credentials are my own experience.
When you said that, I was like, whoa. Because that's embodying the truth of who you are, not the labels and roles that you have to use to exist in the physical world, right? It's like you're embodying your lessons, your teachings, all the wisdom and insights that you took from your own journey and synthesized it into what you're now teaching. I mean, your first book won multiple awards. Now this book, Being Love, takes all your teachings and all your wisdom and brings it to others so they can have access to the practice. That's just one example of the practices that you share in the book. What you just shared with such vulnerability of what happened this morning. One, thank you for sharing that, because that's why I love you. You show up with just such this open heart and go, you know what, if I'm feeling this way, others could be having moments of anxiety or stress, and they don't know how to process through them, right? And by you sharing what you just experienced with such openness, I think it gives those that are listening to be able to say, oh my goodness, that's how I'm feeling. There is a way I can shift back into the higher vibration. So I want to thank you, because it's so important. Sometimes we feel like we're alone when we have those experiences and those feelings and those anxieties. And we're never alone, as you and I know.
We're never alone. And that divine connection to source, to whatever you want to call that energy, is so key. And we have so many, like you just said, all these ideas of who we should be, the roles, the hats we wear every day, the identities that we have to peel away, because that's not our essence. That's just what we do in this lifetime. It's a way we express ourselves. It's not who we are. And when we can get into that place by just allowing whatever is going on within us to show up, it allows us to start to feel that vibration and to realize, this is the vibration I want to go out into the world. I want this to greet my husband when he walks in the door. I want this to play with my children. I want this to go out to the people that I'm seeing today, so that when they walk in the door, I can open myself lovingly and share my vulnerability with them so they know where they are. And I know, Linda, that my being able to tap into my own vulnerability in that space of love allows others to do the same, because I'm sharing it. And that's what Being Love is all about. In the book, I reveal things I have never shared publicly. And I knew that I had to go deep, because others need to know that they have there's probably similar issues or similar feelings, and they have to go deep too.
Oh, and it's so true. And I want to dive into that more. And I also want to, when we come back from commercial break, talk about this fear that we're unworthy of love. And it's that fear that prevents us from experiencing love and connection with ourselves. So we'll be back in a moment with my special guest and dear friend, Dr. Debra Reble of drdebrareble.com.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Experience a homecoming to your heart. In the foreword of Dr. Debra Reble's new book, Being Love, How Loving Yourself Creates Ripples of Transformation in Your Relationships and the World, Marcy Shimoff shares, the answer to our inner longing isn't finding love, it's being love. The practices that Dr. Debra presents in Being Love are keys to opening your heart and receiving your divine birthright as a physical manifestation of love. Her techniques, developed over years of successful private practice with her clients and from her extensive training in multiple disciplines, are accessible, compassionate, and effective. Her message is powerful, and if you allow it, will change your whole life. Order your copy of Being Love today at beinglovebook.com and receive over 45 transformational gifts. Being Love is brought to you by Inspired Living Publishing.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America in your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Hi, you're listening to Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy, and today we're talking about love, self-love, overcoming the fear of being loved because you feel that you're unworthy, and that's where we ended off just before the commercial break. And Debra, in your book you talk about that we all have this fear that we're unworthy of love. And it's that fear that is actually blocking the vibration of love from us showing up fully in our relationships with ourselves and others, which of course then ripples out to the world. So can we talk about that for a little while, this feeling of being unworthy and how we can start the journey to healing it?
It's the feeling of being unworthy of love and feeling afraid to feel that is very prevalent in our society right now. Everyone wants to distract from that feeling because it's I mean, candidly, it's not fun. When I talk about this journey of being with myself and feeling those excruciating pain of that lovelessness, I'm not going to tell you it's a walk in the park. However, when we distract with whatever we do, medication or, over medicating and overdoing, overachieving, anything that takes us away from that essence, we start to move even further away from our sense of ourselves as love. And so we have to see that when we are distracting, we have to come back to that and own it and say it's okay to be afraid, no matter what our path is. Many of us haven't had even traumas or significant losses in our lives to even create that. We might say, well, why do I feel that way? I haven't had anything major. But it's the continuous messages of, you're not good enough. You didn't do this well enough. You aren't, behaving the way we want you to behave, whether it's societal, whether it was a message in your family of origin. Those messages stay with us. And eventually they start to block that beautiful vibration of love that we emanate all the time. And so we have to get in touch with those blocks, whatever they are. So it's okay if whatever message came about for you, and you need to go in there and look at that. And not to judge it, not to compare it to someone else. Yes, you can look at my story, and it's in the book, and it's pretty traumatic. But I'm just like anyone else. Other people have messages of worthlessness that have also blocked their ability to transcend and transform for love. So again, when we open our hearts and we allow ourselves to go into that place of vulnerability, and then we sustain it with mantras like I am love, or journaling, or sharing with a trusted friend who's in our energetic support team, then we get to keep that channel of love open. It keeps that resonance of the heart center open so that we can elevate that vibration. That vibration is so needed at this time in the world because we are healing ourselves, we are healing our relationship, and we are healing our world.
And it all starts with us, right? And you know I'm visual from our conversations, and I think I've shared it on a couple of shows, so I see in pictures. And I see an individual, and then I see these beautiful rays of light, radiating and rippling out from that person. And the more we open to love, the bigger those ripples are that are going out and energetically touching others. So when we're in fear, I feel like those ripples are really tight next to us. They're not touching other people's lives, right? But when we're in love,
not at all.
And that vibration is so big, that's when we have the power to create transformation in others. Because love,
absolutely, Linda. Absolutely. Fear takes us into the lower frequency of vibration, and love brings us into the highest transformative energy in the world. So when we think about choice, where do you want to be? Do you want to be elevating to that higher vibration, or do you want to be in the lower frequency?
And for myself, healing my lovelessness, I think so many women, and I don't know if it's a generational thing, we carry the wounds for so long because we become people pleasers, right? So we step into this role and we hide behind masks. And what I'm discovering in my own circle and the audience that I serve and the clients that I serve is that so many women are waking up right now in the middle of their life going, oh my God, how did I get here? They know they're living inauthentically. They know they're disconnected from love, truth, their mission, their message, and they almost feel like a stranger in their own life. That's the sign that I believe, and I'd love to talk to you about this, Debra, that's that feeling, that's the sign that their soul's speaking to them to say, come back to your truth, come back to love. And have you been seeing that with your clients too?
Absolutely. That is probably the most prevalent reason people come in to see me is they want to come back into that connection. Because somehow we disconnect from ourselves through all these different messages of unworthiness and unlove. And when we start to wake up, this awakening that's happening, especially with the feminine energy on the planet right now, because it's the sacred feminine energy that's going to heal the planet. We have been absorbing and carrying and filtering and purifying all of this energy for so long. And women are now saying it's time for us to lift out of that and be who we came to be, which is that energy of love, that we don't have to go through that process anymore to lift into a higher vibration. And so women that are coming in are saying, I don't know what I'm doing here. All I know is someone told me to come, or I saw your article, and I know I have to come into my own and find my true purpose and calling. And what I always say is, our purpose and calling is to be loved. Once we do that, once we feel that, everything else falls into place. It doesn't matter what you do. It's when you just be and you show up, you will be in the flow of love and open your heart, and that will guide you next. And I love how your story always touches me when I think of you and I think of your beautiful heart, Linda. And when you walk into a room, you always talk about beaming love so brilliantly that you can't even fit through the doorway.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lovely image for women to see that they are that source. And if they just saw themselves that way and started using even that particular practice, it would shift everything.
Yeah, and I want to tell listeners, or explain to the listeners on the call, the woman you're talking and hearing from right now, me and Debra, it isn't like one day we magically woke up and said, ta-da, here we are, we can talk about love and we can talk about healing. Hell no. We went through our own transformational healing journey. And what Debra just shared with you about me, about when I walk into a room, especially if I'm going to an event or a presence with a lot of people, I try to envision myself bigger than I am on an energetic layer. Does that make sense? So I envision beautiful light around me, and I want to walk into that room where all they feel is that love. Now, let me bring you back 25, 30 years. I couldn't be in a room with a lot of people and have the teacher shut the door. I had that anxiety of being in groups of people. And to be where I am today, to be able to walk into a room or speak, I've spoken in front of 400 women, to be able to hold my place in the room and know my value, that's self-love. And if I can heal my feelings of lovelessness, if Debra can, if her clients can, you can too. And it was really important for me to share because I feel like someone is listening right now. I think there's a few of you who are listening right now that are really hurting and doubting yourself, doubting your value. And I'm here to say, stop doubting, because you're such a beautiful soul and you're here for a purpose. And like Debra said, it starts by turning inward. And Debra, when we come back in a moment, I want to talk about that even more, about sharing another practice that we can walk, that you can walk a woman through to connect with that, connect with her authentic self. And we'll be back in a moment with Inspired Conversations with my special guest, Dr. Debra Reble of drdebrareble.com.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ladies, your story has the power to transform lives. 4-time best-selling boutique publishing company, Inspired Living Publishing, is dedicated to sharing women's stories of hope, love, and transformation with the intention to inspire and empower their readers to believe in the power of possibility. Share your story in an upcoming print or Kindle project. Visit inspiredlivingpublishing.com today.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTRFM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to Inspired Conversations. This is your host, Linda Joy, and we're talking about love today with my special guest, the author of Being Love, Dr. Debra Reble. So, Debra, a few moments ago, you and I were talking about our own journeys and how we've healed our lovelessness, and when the issues still come up because we're humans, and they will, that we now have the tools to help us shift it. So I know that you have many practices that you share in the book that, and with your clients, that have helped them successfully transform their life. Is there one coming to mind right now, maybe a quick process that you can lead our listeners through that lovingly guides them back to themselves?
There is, and when you were sharing about your own journey, it took me back to when I was in my late 20s again, starting out on this on this journey of love. And one of the practices that I started doing, and for the listeners, I lost my mom when I was 8 years old to heroin addiction. And she abandoned my family at that time and was never heard of again. So the lovelessness that was piled on there was, I'm not even lovable for a parent to stay around. So that's a pretty deep wound to heal. And when I started to work in that place, I used this practice of, in my journal, I would write down, I am, and at that time I was a psychologist, I'm a graduate student, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and then I would look at those identities and roles, and then I would start to say, I am trust, I am light, I am love. And I went to energies that were whole, not the fragments of a role or identity. And I started to put those in place so that then I started speaking them as I went through the day. So whatever issue I was working on, I am not good enough, I would put in, I am more than enough. So I would always look at the motivation for where my worthlessness was coming from, and then put in the mantra or intent that would help me sustain that throughout the day.
It's almost like you rewrote your script.
I did. I rewrote my story, because the story that was going on in my head was I was nothing. How I was at a point in my life that if my own mother could leave, how in the world could anyone love me? And so I had to say, but you need to love you. And so when I started to reinforce what I was doing every day in that early meditation of sitting quietly and letting that excruciating pain come forward, after the release, I needed something to keep me going through the day. And that was one of them.
It's powerful because, well, for me anyway, I am is what I think one of the most powerful statements in the universe. I think when we say it and with belief, whatever follows I am becomes reality, right? Especially
it's a vibration.
Yeah, and especially when we're working on our internal script. And all of us have that story that caused wounds that we may not be able to see or name, but it doesn't change the fact that the wound is there keeping us in fear. So I once had someone say, well, how did you go from fear to love? And I says, well, one day I asked myself, Jeepers, Linda, you've been living in fear, anxiety, stress, that energy, that masculine energy, whatever that is, for 35 years of your life. What do you have to lose to try to shift those thoughts? Kind of like the process you just did. And when I looked at it that way, I'm like, wow, it's right. What do I have to lose to try shifting everything and trusting and allowing and going into that energy? And that was 25 years ago, and that started my journey and led me to this sacred call with you.
That's a wonderful journey. As painful and difficult as it's been worth every step. I can say the same.
Yeah, I have no regrets. I have no regrets about my journey, even the painful parts, because I know I was being prepared for exactly what I'm doing now, so I can hold loving, compassionate space for women wherever they are on the journey, because I've been there.
Yes. And I want to share with everyone who's listening, if you can't do it for yourself, like Linda just spoke into that question that she asked, then if you have children, if you have nieces and nephews, if you have friends, if you have family, which you all do, then start with, I want to create love in my relationships. And then bring it back to you if you can't start with yourself. But starting with yourself is the center point. But get to love in some way. Whether you start to volunteer and you share love out into your own community, do something that starts that vibration. And I tell you, you will come back to you, because that's where it all begins.
I love that. I love that you shared that if you're not in the place right now on your journey to do it for yourself, then do it for your extended family. And the moment you said it, I can remember that it was the reason that I left my marriage many, many years ago. It was because I remember looking at my children, one mine and two were his, and they were very young, all under 8 years old, and I remember saying, oh my, this is the relationship my daughters are going to think is natural as a healthy relationship. This is the relationship my stepson is going to believe is how he should act within a relationship. And 4 months later, I left the marriage. Because I couldn't have left, if I didn't have children, Deborah, I know this now, I wouldn't have found the strength to leave. Because at that time, I didn't love myself enough to leave. But I loved them.
Children.
Yes.
Enough.
Yes.
Yes.
And hearing you say that, I had that flash of, wow, that was my truth. I had to do it for them.
Yes. I remember looking in my son's eyes and saying, I will be the best person I can be for you. And then I will do it for myself.
Well, I think what it does is...
That's okay.
Yeah, because, and you know what, I think it's, for some of us, and I'll speak from my own experience, for some of us, I wasn't yet ready to take the steps necessary to love myself. But the love was in my heart. It was directed outward towards my children. And then I began the journey of learning how to direct it back towards me.
Yes. And I'm so glad we're talking about this because that's so important. Not everybody is at the same space at the same time, at the same place. And so when you talk about that space, you can start with gratitude, compassion, and open your heart in that vibration even towards someone else. Because that will open your heart into love, and that vibration of love cannot coexist with fear, anger, anything negative. So if you want to transcend your life right now, just start with those practices of gratitude and compassion, because that space will start that vibration to open, and then eventually it can come into your own awareness of your own sense of self.
Exactly. And I'm so glad we were talking about gratitude because I know it's an important practice in your life. It's one of the practices that I started 25 years ago, a morning gratitude ritual where, and again, for everyone, wherever you are on the path, I'll just give you my experience because it was very hard back then because of the energy I was in personally to find something to be grateful for. And I know that you may see me and hear me now and say, oh, come on, Linda. Believe me, it was the hardest thing I did was to lay there and try to find 5 things I was grateful for. And it was a struggle for me, again, because I was in that fear-based energy. And I remember going, okay, I'm grateful for the cup of coffee this morning. I was actually doing it like that at first. It was like, I'll find these, I'm like, I'll find these 5 darn things to be grateful for, right? And here's the magical part. You cannot help. When you're tuned into the energy of gratitude, you can't help but change your heart. And what happened over time, without me even realizing it was, I would lay there and soon I was easily giving 5 things I was grateful for. I could have laid there all night and listed 20 things. Then I began to learn how to feel the gratitude for that thing I was naming. And that feeling combined with giving gratitude changed my entire life.
And that feeling, Linda, I'm with you when you're describing this because this is my own practice too. But that feeling is just an opening. That feeling, everyone, is in you. All you're doing is just opening the door. It's nothing you have to seek outside of you. It's not in a relationship. It's not in what you do. It's in you. So whatever tool you take away from this conversation or you read the book and you take away, it unlocks that. It just brings you into your heart coherence that starts to align with everything in your body so that you resonate at that highest frequency and every cell and everything in your body starts to come online. That's what this is about. And when everyone is doing that, can you imagine what our world's going to look like?
It's a completely different vibration. And
different vibration. And it's in us. It's already there. It's nothing you have to go find. And
no, because it's the essence of who we are, right? It's like we're tapping into our divine energy field and our divine energy source, whatever that may be, without even naming it. It's just whatever yours is. Gratitude opens I don't want to say opens. It clears the connection that right now may feel static to you, filled with static.
Yes. It's like this channel. I always say, like, there's a channel that we can either block or we can open. And some people might see it as just, I even use the word of like an image of a hose, where if you can't get that water can't get through. But if you open it, that you open and tap into that source. And the same is with us. The minute we unblock, the minute we release, the minute we just go into gratitude or compassion, all of a sudden something shifts. It flips back. And our heart centers open, and that channel of love is released into the world. So I just want to encourage everyone to do that.
And it's such a beautiful energy to tap into. And we're going to talk more about gratitude when we come back from our commercial break. This is Linda Joy of Inspired Conversations. We'll be back in a moment.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Beautiful one, if you're living your life by default and feeling disempowered, disconnected, and disenchanted, it's time to tap into your goddess power and use that divine energy to create the magical life of your dreams. As part of the Goddess Lifestyle Alchemy program, Creatrix Lisa Marie Rosati guides you through the 12 aspects of your life while tapping into the archetypes, the 4 elements, the divine, and practical magic. By connecting to the divine and working with universal laws, your life suddenly shifts from going through the motions and struggles to seeing divine love and purpose in all aspects of your life. If you're ready to design your magical life, visit Lisa at goddesslifestyleplan.com for an abundance of supportive resources.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Healing Light, on OMTimes Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Healing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
Hi, this is Carly Simon for LifeBeat. The music industry fights AIDS. The AIDS crisis isn't over. There have been amazing scientific breakthroughs, but people are still dying, and your local AIDS organization needs your help more now than ever. Volunteer and make a difference.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Welcome. You're listening to Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy. I'm here with my special guest, Dr. Debra Reble. And before the break, we were talking about the power of gratitude and how tapping into the essence of gratitude with feeling and emotion can really transform your life. And we both shared examples of how it transformed ours. And in this last segment, I want to dive deeper into the topic of gratitude, because as all this conversation unfolded, Deborah, I realized that to find our way back to self-love, we have to start at that basic shift of energy, and gratitude does that.
Yes, it does. And what I've started to realize is gratitude is just a way, a vehicle, a catalyst to open our hearts. And when I go into my heart opening, I'm so much more aware of myself through the guidance of that inner voice. And what I love about gratitude is, and this is something I do in my own life, is I'm grateful for every aspect of my life. Now, I'm going to tell you, I am grateful for every traumatic situation that happened in my life. I'm grateful for every pain. I'm grateful for every upset, because I wouldn't be standing here talking with you all if I hadn't gone through that. Now, I'm not saying we have to stay in the suffering and pain. We don't, but we still have to be grateful for it. So the practice of gratitude can really unleash self-love when you elevate it to, I'm grateful for everything, including every step that may have been really challenging or very difficult or excruciatingly painful. I'm grateful for it all.
Oh, that was a major shift for me, too, is to be able to look back on my life. And as I said earlier in the call, I no longer have regrets. I know that everything happened for my highest and best purpose. I know that I was being led to where I am today. And that was a big shift for me, because we carry shame, anger, unforgiveness, and so many other things that stop us from being the truth of who we are, which is love. And I realized that the baggage of carrying all that stuff was weighing me down from living and showing up fully. So I know from our personal conversations that's a big part of your teachings and the message throughout the whole book is to look back at your past and what you consider mistakes as lessons that you needed to learn to get to the next evolution of yourself.
And also and I use the word forgiveness. That's a way of clearing of the past. And I use you've heard me many times say bless and release. I use that to bless whatever person, situation came into your life to show you whatever information you needed to spiritually grow. And release everything else that doesn't align with you and your soul's journey. Now, when I use that 1,000 times a day, here's another self-love practice. To keep that channel, that heart-opening resonance, open so that it doesn't get blocked, so that love energy continues to flow. And that's what it will attract the higher vibrations in your life. So if you're coming from that place, then you're going to receive from that place. So like attracts like, and the higher vibrational energy that goes out, the more comes back into your field. So I know I have to keep that clear all the time, and so I'm always blessing and releasing. So I bless that person for, even when I might have been, given a signal in my car that I might have not done exactly the right thing, I say thank you for that, because I need to let go of the anger if that was directed at me and take the message and move forward.
And I think that's a beautiful piece of wisdom to come to a close with today's inspired conversation, to be able to bless and release all that comes into our lives. And I want to thank you, Deborah, for being here. It's always an honor to share space with you. And I want to invite everyone to visit drdebrareble.com to learn more about Deborah's inspiring work, read her blog, follow her iTunes podcast, and also, if you're drawn to the energy of everything we're talking about, I invite you to go to beinglovebook.com to order your copy of the book, which right now includes over 45 transformational gifts when you do that. So thank you, everyone, for joining me for Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy. I invite you to listen in every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern for more conversations with visionary women like Deborah, who are here to share their feminine wisdom to support you in living your best life. For even more inspiration, claim your free subscription to Aspire magazine. And you can do that at subscribetoaspire.com. Until next time, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living. Inspiration for a Woman's Soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.